Howdy, folks. I'm Zach Zebo Gleason here with my co-host Gage Hardhead Hamby, and this is another episode of Calf Kicks After Dark. We took a couple of weeks off. We've been working on trying to figure out how we're going to format the show a little bit better, and more than anything, trying to get a little bit better at figuring out what's going on so we can give you guys a more precise analysis of what we see. I'm live streaming from my room here in Katy, Texas. I slipped a couple of discs in my back, so the past few days haven't been the best. But looking forward to Saturday, April 24th, we're looking at one of the best cards of 2021 potentially. So Gage, what fight strikes your mind off the top of your head? What really gets you excited looking at this card up at first?
I mean, most people are going to say the main event with Usman versus Masvidal. Now, casuals, though, they don't realize that these women, they go to war. I'm picking Thug Rose versus Zhang Weili. Zhang? I don't know how the hell to say that. Anywho, they've already had animosity. They've been talking shit to each other. I think Thug said something like, better dead than red, like referring to the communism, in
Yeah.
because that's where Wayne or Whaley's from. Dude, I mean, I'm predicting a fight just as good, if not better, than Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Whaley last year, and that, in my opinion, might have been one of the best fights I've ever watched, regardless of who was fighting, women, men, doesn't matter, weight division. Those girls, they went ham. They touched each other up. They went to war for like what 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, I see that happening again. I think it's just gonna be a slugfest. Although, I mean, from what I've seen from Whaley, I don't think she can be beat. Like, I mean, you want to give her best shot for 25 minutes, and did the most damage that's ever been done to Whaley, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
she withstood it and still won. So I mean, it's gonna be. I think it's just gonna be a slobber knocker, in my opinion.
No, I definitely think that looking at this fight, one of the biggest things you can get excited about, I guess, from a fan's perspective, is I think this is one of the best technical matches that the UFC can make. I think both Weili and Thug Rose are both very technically sound. I don't think they make a lot of mistakes. Excuse me. I don't think they make a lot of mistakes and put themselves in position to take damage. But like you said, this is a championship fight. I think there's a little bit of animosity between the two of them. It's a fight. I think they're going to slug it out. I personally think it's going to go to 5 rounds, but let's touch on that a little bit more later because we definitely both probably have a little bit more to say. But let's
Yeah.
let's
All
look
right.
at this main card. Let's check
Let's
this main.
let's just start with the future prelim first.
Okay, feature prelim. What you got?
Randy Brown versus Cowboy Oliveira. I mean, this.
Okay.
I mean, obviously they're gonna have to put a name up at the top of the main event on ESPN, or the main prelim event,
Right.
the featured prelim event that is on ESPN. They put a name up that people are gonna recognize. Cowboy Oliveira, he's been around forever, man. Got our Cowboys hat on.
Yeah, this is our salute to Cowboy Oliveira. We're
Hell
talking
yeah.
about adding a new costume element into the podcast, something to make it a little bit more unique. But Cowboy, if we ever end up making contact with you one day, this one's for you, pal.
Yeah, but I mean, at welterweight, I mean, he's getting old. He's been around the block, man. But
Yeah, he's
also,
done
he's
it a time.
fighting. Yeah, he's fighting Randy Brown. He's 12-4, I believe. I mean, he was a younger guy, obviously, than Cowboy, but I'm gonna take Cowboy in this. Just
Yeah.
and he got way more experience in the octagon, in my opinion. But that doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's who comes to fight and who's gonna be willing to
Right.
put
And
on the line.
I think one of the big themes we've been seeing in the UFC recently is the guys that have done this a time or two have been, kind of fading out. And we've been seeing younger guys put themselves onto the scene by beating somebody with a name like that. However, On the other hand, we saw a guy like Dominic Cruz a few weeks ago turn back the clock and turn in an awesome performance against Casey Kenny. So we're going to see what Dom does next. And I'm not
Hey,
counting
sugar
Cowboy.
show. Sugar show.
I'm not counting Cowboy Oliveira out, and I'm not counting Dom Cruz out. But I think Randy might be able to stick it to him on Saturday night. Hold on for a second before we get any further. Let me double check. But I think I saw some beef on Twitter the other day where Sugar basically said Cruz denied him. So Sugar Sean turned around and offered for the McGregor card on July 10th. Pedro Munoz, I believe, was the guy's name.
Yeah, Pedro Munoz. I think he fought Jimmy Rivera last. That was an underrated war. I mean, it was on.
That was a good one. And Pedro Munoz also was in that crazy fight where he dropped Cody Garbrandt.
That's right.
But he lost to Frankie Edgar and he lost to Aljo in between. But like, I don't think Pedro Munoz is anybody to get down on. He beat Rob Font. He's a pretty respectable opponent. I think him versus Sugar just adds another element to that McGregor card that just solidifies it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Sean O'Malley fan. Love watching him. It's fucking
Me
beautiful,
too, for
right?
sure.
But I mean, he hasn't come across, rising stars. They get that chance, even after setback like Chito Vera, they get that chance of getting a name, and not in their prime, but like maybe a Frankie Edgar, a Dom Cruz, somebody that like casual fans like, oh, I've heard that name. He used to be a world champion, or he used to be top of the line. He's still up there, but he's not, top contender anymore, right? I think Sean O'Malley needs that, and that's what he was looking for from Dom. I mean, that would have propelled him way up the rankings. But he's also in a stacked division. In my opinion, this second most stacked division behind the lightweight division in all of the UFC.
I can absolutely attest to that. And I agree 100% with what you're saying, especially for a guy like Sean O'Malley, who's a rising star, absolutely, but he's done this a couple of times. He has a couple of fights in the UFC. He's not the new kid on the block like you would say the Chimaevs and the Kevin Hollands were, the way they broke onto the scene. But like you were saying, I think the big point is that for those guys to break into the scene and for them to get the main events and to get into the big fights, you have to beat a name. Like, to use Kevin Holland, for example, Kevin Holland fought Thiago Silva, but I mean, that was circumstantial to say the least.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to take that fight, and he was the only guy that would take it on such short notice. So kudos to the cojones on Kevin Holland. But this past year, we saw him fight Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori, two of the top middleweights. And regardless of the fact that he lost, the only way he got there was because he beat Jacare Souza at the end of 2020. And that was the name he needed to vault himself up into position. So I agree. I think Sugar Sean is definitely looking for somebody who has a name, because if he beats them, then it turns into, well, I call out Piotr Jan, or I call out Aljamain or Cody TJ, or somebody like that. And it's not, oh, Sugar, you high again. It's like, that's a legitimate call out and something that has to be respected, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I also think Sean O'Malley is an interesting case, just because he's not highly ranked. He hasn't won a lot in the UFC, but casual fans, he has an audience. He has a very big audience, and people know his name, or at least what he looks like and what he's done, which is very unusual for somebody that I think he's only had like 3-4 fights, maybe max in the UFC.
Yeah, in the UFC.
And he's lost one of them. I mean, he's not the
his professional record, including the Alameda fight from however many weeks ago, discluding the Chito Vera fight, which we obviously understand was not a defeat. We're not going to mark that one in the loss category. Sugar Sean's 13-0 professionally as an MMA fighter. But I think you're right. I think only a couple of those, I think only 3 or 4 of those come in the UFC. So I don't think he's done his time, paid his dues. But I think at this point, we've seen him put some brutal knockouts on people. I think we've seen him flatten some guys. And I think after the way that we saw him kickbox and the high level of ability to understand range and positioning, to create angles, to create striking opportunities, I don't think it's like I don't think it's fair to put him in there with somebody like that anymore. I think he deserves a little bit more respect, and I think Pedro Munoz would be an awesome fight. I
Bro,
think that one would set up a lot of great opportunities for Sean if he wins. And Pedro, like you said, lost his last fight. And I think that beating Sugar Sean would put him right back on track to say that I'm a contender in the 135 division.
what do you think about the comparison of Dominic Cruz in his prime to Sean O'Malley now? I mean, I think their styles super similar.
I
I
think
think
they're
Sean's
super.
a little more flashy, a little more knockout heavy-handed, but still, like, I think they're very similar, and that would be like a fantastic, fight.
Well, this is something I'm definitely going to bring full circle and kind of touch on again later as we get on into the show. But I think one of the things that made Dominic Cruz so great and something that pushed him, especially in his prime, and especially to get better in the aftermath, was that he had a rival. Faber versus Dominic Cruz, that trilogy was incredible. And I think that those guys really were the definition of competitors. So I think that having to fight Faber over and over again pushed Cruz to be the best fighter he can be. So I think I'll leave that at how it is. But I think if Sugar can find somebody like Chito Vera where they create a rematch or something and there's this level of animosity, this level of we don't like each other, I think Sugar's going to train as hard as he ever has. He's going to come out as best as he's ever looked. And I think he's going to reach that next level because he found somebody to push him, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree, but you brought up an interesting point in rivalries. I think MMA is like one of the sports that you have the hardest time creating a rivalry just because it's settled. Like almost 100% of the time, not almost, but like I'd say 85% of the time, it's settled when they get in that ring and there's a better man that night.
Yeah.
But like when you get a split decision or like a bullshit majority decision or whatever, you can't really tell. Like nobody has a definitive winner. That's when rivalries come. But then again, you get a second fight, half the time, somebody gets knocked out the second time because they have a better understanding. Very little
I agree, but
do
I
you get the
think
trilogies, and that's like when the real rivalries start, in my opinion, that are like cemented in the fighters' legacies.
no, I definitely agree with what you're saying, where it's a lot more inducing of a rivalry and a lot more, I guess, motivating from an athletic perspective when you lose that first fight in a decision or a split decision or something goes like that. But I also think there's a certain degree where, like, the saying in football is any given Sunday, the worst team in the league could come out and beat the best team in the league any given Sunday because they're all professionals. Like the example that I guess I want to use is like Aljo choked out Corey Sandhagen in like 30 seconds, like
Yeah.
maybe less than that. And I'm not saying that Aljo's not a great wrestler and a great grappler and that Sandhagen didn't have that hole in his game. I think that fight definitely played out how it was supposed to. But they used the word caught, and
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
he
He got
definitely
caught.
got caught, and I think that's definitely a rematch I'd like to see, and definitely a rivalry I could see being created outside of the rivalry Sterling already has with Jan and the way they've gone back and forth over the belt.
Now that's a way to create a rivalry. Something that no way expects having a DQ loss for Jan, especially when the fight was going that way. And now Aljo wants to talk on the fucking internet and be a keyboard warrior about, oh yeah, this is my bill. I don't want it, blah blah. Yeah, okay. That's a good way to start a fucking rivalry, in my opinion.
That's a good way to make money if
Out of
you're
one fight. out of one fight. That's it. That's what.
I just mean, if you're really talking about it, that's a great way to make money because nobody wants to make the connection because WWE is fake. MMA, like UFC, professional fighting is real.
Yeah.
But to make money and to create that for yourself in professional fighting, which is real, you kind of have to create a character like you would in WWE. And that's why you see your guys like your Connor, your Masvidal, your guys that come on the
Covington.
mic. Yeah, I just mean Angry Marvin Vittori's kind of turning into one of those guys. Darren Till, these guys that create an atmosphere around their fight because they are who they are.
Isn't that weird that we only want to watch fight when there's like, not us, but like human beings, like they get more interested when like people are actually like talking shit and like have a disdain for each other. And like it's different than any other sport. Like, yeah, in football, you could dislike a guy and you could hit him. But like in MMA, it's like it's one-on-one. It's like the best you got versus the best he got to show who's a better, better basically human in the octagon. Who's better
Well,
at using their
I think animosity plays a big role into it because we're talking about fighting as a sport. Like, I know I don't really want to go back and touch on this because we'll go way too long and run out of time, and we got to get onto this main card. But if you look back at Jake Paul and Ben Askren, no disrespect to anybody or anything in the way that that went down, but I think Ben the whole time was very apathetic towards Jake Paul, very indifferent in terms of like he didn't care that he was there. He didn't give a shit about Jake Paul. He just wanted to make his bank, and that's very respectable for a guy who in modern MMA media has been discussed probably didn't get paid as much as he deserved to fight mixed martial arts. So I respect Ben Askren for going to get the bag, but like you saw, there was no level of animosity. There was no level of I want to kill you. So it very much kind of looked like a mamby-pamby fight. And at the end of the day, all the fans and the critics have to at least touch on the fact that, oh, well, maybe that fight could have been fixed and maybe Ben could have just gone in there and taken that punch just to get his payday. Or, I mean, who knows? You could even look so far as Ben gave his best friend from junior high $2 million to go bet on Jake Paul to knock him out in the first round, and he really ended up making bank there.
Yeah.
But that's enough on Triller. I can't really get into that bullshit.
Fuck that show. Fuck that whole promotion. That was the most bullshit thing I've ever watched.
No, that was horrible.
I'd rather just spray acid in my eyes than watch fucking Justin Bieber and Ice Cube come out before fights and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna rap on TV. And like, if anybody wanted to see this shit, we'd be on fucking YouTube, not paying PPV.
And the commentary team was like, no shout out. I mean, Pete Davidson in the interviews, that was funny. I could see that being adopted in some way, shape, or fashion to other ways. But the commentary lineup, the way they were so fucked up, especially Oscar De La Hoya, and the way that they were talking.
Oh, baby.
It sounded like an SNL sketch of what fight commentary would look like. They were just saying stupid stuff. It offered nothing to the broadcast. It was like the whole thing could have very well been fake. Like,
oh yeah, that was like the biggest media circuit. Like that might as well have been like the fucking WWE if we're being 100% honest. Like that's the broadcast. It's like, oh, let's go view in the back. These people are beefing in the back. Anywho.
No, and that's the only draw was that. Oh my God, is Jake Paul really a boxer? And can he do it against somebody who's been a professional fighter? The last point, you can have one more and I'll stop, but he caught Ben Askren at the worst possible athletic time of his career, retired, brand new hip, never fought anybody since 2019. And, then he started going after all sorts of other people. I think I would respect Jake Paul as a boxer if he got in the ring and beat Tyron Woodley. I don't think Tyron Woodley's a great boxer, but I think he's much more apt with the hands than Ben Askren. And I think if you give him 3 months, he would be a much better boxer than Ben Askren, especially because even at this age and even despite his last performance in MMA, Tyron Woodley's still very competitive. And I don't have any doubt that he would put a lot more effort into going into that fight and training for it than Ben Askren did.
All right, last point on this.
Yeah, you got it. I know.
Okay, he's no doubt about it. As a businessman, Jake Paul, phenomenal. Dude, I mean, the fact that we are sitting here talking about it just proves it. Marketing genius. He knows what the fuck he's doing. He's getting everybody to talk about him. And it's exactly what he wants. Who cares if it's negative publicity and people talk shit about him? He doesn't give a fuck. Just bring in the fucking money. Like, and the best way to, like, example of where he got this fucking idea from. I'm sure there's people before him, but the Ball brothers, especially the dad, dude. When Lonzo was coming into the basketball league, he was talking all this shit. Oh, Lonzo is going to be better than Magic Johnson. His numbers going to be in the rafters. Blah blah. And people are like, this dude's fucking crazy. Dude, that guy was getting more screen time for doing fucking nothing but gassing up his children than anybody I've ever seen.
Into the number 1 pick. Lonzo Ball was a great prospect. Number 2, excuse me. Great prospect. No disrespect to his career at UCLA, but he was not the number 2 prospect in the whole NBA draft coming out. He was not, I mean, obviously at this point, not the number 2 player in that class. And not to say that he's not a good basketball player, because he's having a great season, it sounds like, in New Orleans. But like you're saying, without the publicity and without the whole LeVar Ball and the hype and the stuff behind him, you're absolutely right. That would have never happened.
I mean, it's smart. Like, it seems stupid and everybody criticizes you, but it gets you on screens.
That's the way. I mean,
from the audience, and that's exactly what he wanted.
Any publicity is good publicity, even negative publicity. Like you said, as long as you're on the screen, you're doing yourself favors.
All right.
I mean, unless you're Bill Clinton, but that's gonna be my one side comment for the day. Let's get into this.
Billy handjob Clinton.
All right, let's get into this UFC 261 main card.
After all that other bullshit we just talked about for like 30
minutes. We're really rolling. Let's keep it going. We're really getting into this.
All right, Jimmy Crute versus Anthony Smith, right?
Anthony Lionheart Smith, yes, sir.
All right, what do you think? Who do you got?
See, my whole thing is that I think, like I said, we might have been talking about this before the show started, but I think we're seeing this string of guys that are veterans and guys that are getting older, guys that have done this a few times, getting beaten out by the guys that are the rising stars. And I respect Jimmy Crute as a fighter. I think that he is definitely somebody who he hits hard. He boxes well. He knocks guys out. And I mean, all around, he's very technically sound. However, I think Anthony Smith has done this a long time. I think we saw him against the up-and-comer and Devin Clark the last time he fought. He beat Devin Clark. You know, he lost to Rakic and he lost to Teixeira, but he beat Alexander Gustafsson in 19.
I think he was washed, but like those 2 wins are obviously Glover Teixeira has had an unbelievable like resurgence in his career. He's fighting for the title here pretty soon. But like the Rakic loss, he's a top contender now. I think Anthony Smith is getting older. His chin isn't holding up as well. I think he's going to continue this slide, man.
Personally, I think it's going to be a good fight. I don't think it's gonna make it through 3 rounds. I think someone's going to get knocked out. But my favorite line I saw in media day, I don't know if this was printed or if it was said, but Anthony Smith basically said, I did a fight camp for Jimmy Crute. I studied, I focused on Jimmy Crute, but I fought so many times. I fought 10 Jimmy Crutes. I understand this kind of guy. I understand this kind of opponent. So I think just from a strategical standpoint and based on experience, Anthony Smith is going to figure out a way to pull this one out. And let me double check real quick. Anthony Smith is a plus 170 underdog. So another added element to the show. I put my money on the underdog here instead, as opposed to Jimmy Crute minus 200. I think Anthony Smith's going to get the win here.
I think 170 is a good number, especially for an underdog. but I just don't. I haven't been impressed. Like he hasn't impressed me in his last 3 fights, even his win. I mean, yeah, he got a fucking Hail Mary triangle choke from the bottom. The guy didn't know jujitsu that well, apparently. But anywho, like
I haven't seen a whole bunch of wrestling and jiu-jitsu out of Jimmy Crute either. I think that might end up playing a factor into this. I don't think Anthony Smith is going to stand there and outstrike him. I think Jimmy Crute is a very good boxer, but I think I don't think he's old enough to where you see those guys like Anderson Silva who aren't moving as well and they're leaving themselves exposed to that big punch.
No, he looks like he's in good shape. I'm not disputing that fact, but like he's lost the tick, dog. I really do. I think he's lost a step, not speed wise, but I think he's not a top contender in my opinion anymore.
No, I don't think he is either by any means, and I agree with you that I think he's lost a step. But I think he's still got enough to beat Jimmy Crute. I think if you want me to make a prediction, I think Anthony Smith gets the win here, and I think he tries to call for somebody higher up in the rankings. I think something bad probably happens to him, and I think we see the end of Anthony Smith by at least the end of 2022, by the end of next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to turn into, who just got cut?
Dos Santos, Overeem.
Yeah, Dos Santos and Overeem. Yeah, the two older guys in the heavyweight division. I think he's on his way because there's a bunch of up and comers that I personally haven't watched, but I'm like looking through the rankings. Like most of these guys got good records. I mean, obviously, a lot of the guys previous were beat by John Jones. He just fucking cleaned everybody out. Nobody could touch that guy. So like,
well, that's what I mean. I think 205. While it's not as competitive, maybe as 135 or 155, I don't think it's a weak division by any means, and I
think it's an unknown.
I don't see Anthony Smith stepping in there with Reyes or Blachowicz or
Thiago Santos.
I don't see him fighting any of those guys.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to win against Jimmy Crute, and I think he's going to make that call out. And seeing as Thiago Santos just lost too, I think that ends up being a match that's made, and I think Thiago Santos hits him pretty fucking hard and sends him to shadow round.
Who's Thiago Santos fighting?
He's not fighting, but he just lost. He just lost on the Izzy card, if I'm not mistaken, on the Let me see.
I remember watching it. I was like, he didn't look the same. He did not.
No, he did not look the same at all. You're absolutely right. But I think he's somebody that trains really hard. I think he's really devoted to the sport. So I don't give up on Thiago Santos yet. He lost to Rakic.
Yeah, that's right.
He's lost 3 in a row. He's lost to Rakic, Teixeira, and John Jones 3 in a row. But before that, he had beaten Blachowicz. Like,
well, you also got to remember he arguably almost beat John Jones in a decision 5-5 round with a fucking blown out ACL or whatever the fuck he had. He had a terrible knee injury, and like I still don't think he's comfortable with his legs. Or I mean, he might be comfortable with it now, but like his power is not
the same. Yeah, it's not like a football player where you learn to cut off of it. Again, you have to learn to completely respond quickly off of it, throw kicks out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to worry about people fucking kicking you in the leg, fucking blowing it out again, you know? But that's for another day. We'll talk about Thiago whenever he comes up.
We'll get back around to 205 because I think the main event on May 5th is a 205 bout.
Who is it?
Let's see. Oh, shit.
It's not Blachowicz.
No, it's not Blachowicz.
Dom Reyes is fighting someone, I think.
Yes. But I can't remember the guy's name.
It's probably one of those Russian dudes. They got like fucking 6 guys in the top 10 from Russia. Fucking light heavyweight, man.
No, it's May 1st is Reyes versus Prochazka.
Yeah, exactly.
Prochazka, I think, is from Poland.
I don't think he's from Poland. He might be one from like the eastern.
Let's see. Let's look him up.
Eastern Russia area. Jerry Prochazka or Prozac.
Shaka.
Yeah.
Czech Republic.
That'll be
Okay.
an interesting fight. But let's move on into
Yeah, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
We completely lost our train of thought.
261. What's after Jimmy Crute versus Anthony Smith?
261.
Uriah
After
Hall
that,
versus Chris Weidman.
Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. Uriah
All right.
Hall right now is plus 105, and Chris Weidman is minus 125, the favorite.
That's pretty close. I mean, money-wise, I'd probably take Uriah Hall, the underdog. But what I think personally is, I mean, I want to root for Chris Weidman. I think he's a badass, but I mean, shit, dude, he's dropped what 5 of the last 7, and like,
Yeah, he's lost a couple in a row.
but that's also 5 out of the last 7 since 2015. He hasn't been on a winning streak since he lost the belt to Luke Rockhold.
Yeah.
But I think Joe Rogan was telling a story about him maybe like he got kicked in the leg, or he kicked somebody in the leg and he got like MRSA. Or that might have been Luke Rockhold. I can't remember who it was. But anyways, Chris Weidman, I don't know. Statistics are not necessarily on his side. He's getting up there in age, even though he's only 36, which is not necessarily that old for MMA. But he's dropped 5 out of the last 7. Hasn't, beat anybody significant on his 2 wins. But he's lost to like the likes of Yoel Romero, Luke Rockhold, I forget who else. But he's lost to big names, and he's back down to middleweight. So,
see, there's something about me where I'm with you, where I want to say Chris Weidman, where I want to say
All-American, dog.
Well, I just mean he was talking to Helwani a couple of days ago and mentioned that he only has 4 fights left on his contract. And I'm not implying anything based on this. This is just what he said. But he said in his 4 fights he wants to beat Uriah Hall, he wants to fight a contender, he wants to fight for the belt, and he wants to defend it one time, and then he wants to be done. So I think the big thing here that speaks to me is not that I think Chris Weidman's going to get back to that belt shot, but I think Chris Weidman is motivated right now, which conversely might look a little bit something like might look like Overeem in his last fight, where he ended up getting killed anyway, especially because Uriah Hall in his last performance is more recent, and he looked good against Anderson Silva. I know Silva was a step behind and wasn't the contender he once was, but he's still Anderson fucking Silva.
Yeah.
You can't really, discredit that. Plus, if you look at Weidman's record, he fought Akhmedov, who isn't a bad name. I mean, that's a guy. He won,
Yeah.
but that was in 2020. And then before that, his last significant win was against Gastelum in 2017.
Yeah.
So I think if we look at the betting line, I think I'm very inclined to take the underdog in a lot of these. So I think just based on odds and probability, I'm going to have to go with Weidman, just because there's going to be somebody who's the favorite that wins on this card. There's probably going to be more than one favorite that wins on this card.
Probably. You want my take on the whole 4 fight to get to the championship and 1 to retain it, or whatever the fuck he said?
Yeah, defend
You
it.
ever heard of fucking CTE? Because that's what that motherfucker has, apparently. Jesus Christ. Dude hasn't won he won last year, but last major victory since 2017 in the middleweight division. And he thinks that, I need to win his 3 fights, and then I'm going to get a title shot and beat Izzy, and then defend it probably from Izzy again. Yeah, I don't fucking think so, guy. I think you're going to get your fucking shit rocked. Think like that. Yeah, the whole let's speak shit into existence. Yeah, that fucking works until somebody fucking punches you in the goddamn face.
Plus, here's my other interesting fact that I didn't know till today, and I'm sure a lot of other people don't know. But Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall have actually fought. They fought in 2010 at Ring of Combat 31, and Chris Weidman TKO'd him in the first round. So
That was
you know,
also 11 years ago when he did have CTE.
I was just about to say that's a long time ago, and it's a long time to improve. So I think if you want me to argue against myself and say there's something for Uriah Hall on the line, he wants to avenge that loss. You don't ever want to lose to a guy and not say you got a chance to redeem it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'm going to change my mind. I think if you're putting me down right now, I got Anthony Smith plus 170 and Uriah Hall plus 105. I think I'm with you.
I mean, I agree with you on the betting lines, but I obviously think Jimmy Crute might win. I also think, actually, I don't fucking know. Chris Weidman's fucked. If he's thinking like that, I'm reconsidering what I said previously. I retract my previous statement. You guys fucking. He has a few screws loose there, bud.
Yeah. I think looking at the next one, I think our easiest one, well, I don't ever want to disrespect a fighter and say, especially we're gender equal here at Calf Kicks After Dark. Especially, I'm not disrespecting a woman fighter, but I think Valentina Shevchenko is that good. I think if we have,
leagues above.
I think if we have one fight that I think I would lock in as our guarantee, I think Shevchenko is going to beat Jessica Andrade.
Hammer down.
And I think, again, no disrespect, Jessica Andrade hits hard. Jessica Andrade has fought some of the best people in the entire division.
Damn near broke Thug Rose's neck.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She fought Thug Rose. She beat Zhang. She fought Rose twice. She lost to Njezrak or Joanna Njezrak, but look at this. She's beaten JoJo Calderwood. She beat Angela Hill. She beat Caitlin Chikugian in her last fight.
You say she beat Wei Li?
No, she lost to Wei Li.
Okay.
She lost to Wei Li.
She beat.
She lost to Rose the second time she fought her. Too,
that's right.
Which was more recent.
Yeah.
But, so I can't disrespect her, but like you said, I think Shevchenko is just levels above. And plus, for the implications, as much as I think a lot of people would like to see Shevchenko versus Nunes 3, Shevchenko versus Wei Li makes a great champ super fight if they end up both pulling it out.
That would be a bad, because Shevchenko used to fight 115 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That would be fucking phenomenal. And look, the women's division, it's so there's 5 names. That's it. There's 5 top people, regardless of the division. It's just those 5 competitors are in a different league. You got Wei Li, you got Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you got Thug Rose, and Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes, of course. And that's it. All those ladies, honestly, I wouldn't even be mad. You just had them rotate. It was all right, well, this week you're fighting, X. And you just cycle through them because most of them are in the same division or used to be in the same division.
No, I definitely think there's some people that are rising. I think, Angela Hill is still a name you have to mention. I think Mackenzie Dern is definitely on the rise. I think Mackenzie Dern looks about as good as any woman fighter right now.
Who was that lost a couple months ago that she claimed to be that she wanted to be the youngest champion ever?
Crap. I know exactly who you're talking about.
She lost, but she put up a good fight, and I think she has potential to be a top dog one day. But
no, she looked very good. Her boxing's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't Miranda Maverick. Who was it?
No. I want to say
Google
Macy Barber.
Macy Barber, that's right.
Macy Barber.
Yeah.
You definitely have to put some respect on her name. Absolutely.
I like her.
Even though Nina,
she's making waves at what, 22, 23, whatever the fuck she is, and she's.
Let me see. Let me go back and check where I just had it. I have so many tabs open. I'm flicking through so many things right now. I think it said she was 22.
Yeah, fuck, that's as old as I am. Shit.
Exactly. But yeah, no, 21 actually. She was. She's younger than both of us.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. She's badass. But yeah, we're gonna hammer down on Valentina Shevchenko. I don't even know what her
Yeah,
nickname is, but she doesn't need one because
the
she's a bad
bullet.
motherfucker.
Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko.
Yeah, yeah, she's a fucking bull, that's for sure.
But
Hey,
I think I don't think it's going to be as dominant as she's looked in the past. I don't think she's going to be on her back, obviously, because she never ends up on her back. But like, this might get into the second round, get 2.5. I mean, Andrade is about as tough as they come. I don't think she's just going to lay down for Shevchenko by any means.
I also think Andrade is gonna try to wrestle her. I think
Yeah,
I have a feeling this is gonna be up against the cage a lot of the fight. Like if I had to roadmap how Andrade tries to pull out a victory, she gets in close. She either takes her down, which is going to be very difficult, or she's going to have her up against the cage. And
I agree. I think Andrade has a strength advantage, and I think she's definitely going to have to use it, like you said, and work the clinch up against the cage. But I think Shevchenko is way too good on the ground. I don't think Andrade is going to want any part of that. I think I think really if she's going to win, she's gonna have to box really well. She's gonna have to use her distance and be able to stay away. And then at the end of the day, land that shot, land that big power punch that she's known for.
yeah, I mean, if I had a roadmap it for her, I'd be like, look at fucking Usman versus Masvidal 1.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it for sure.
God, that fucking fight sucked. Anywho,
Anywho,
let's get on to our, I think, my personal favorite fight, which we already spoken about, but I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about this?
like I said before, I think Zhang Weili and Rose Namajunas, I think that is the most technical fight we have on the card. I think they're both about as close as you can get to flawless when it comes to their stand-up game. And I think they're both very apt on the ground and the way that they maneuver it. I don't think either one of them is a particularly strong, like, let me grapple you and ground and pound you, but I think they're both willing to scramble. So if the fight does end up on the ground, I don't think it's going to stay there for them. However, I think the big thing for me is that Rose really took some time off. Rose really went to work on herself. And I think the big thing is that I heard her say in an interview is she didn't really care to be champion the first time she did it. It was like
Yeah,
being the champion carries a lot more pressure than people think. So if I want to compare her to somebody, I look at Robert Whitaker, a guy that won the belt really young. And Robert Whitaker had to go through that phase where he lost the belt to Izzy. He went home, he changed his camp, he fixed the things in his family life and in his personal life that were derailing him. And then you look at what Robert Whitaker did last week against Gastelum, he looked awesome. So no disrespect to Zhang Weili, she's the champ and she's an awesome fighter. But I think we see an upset here. I think Rose is going to find a way to pull it off just because I think that tough thug attitude that comes with her is going to end up showing through in the championship rounds.
what were the odds on that?
Rose is the underdog at plus 175, and Zhang Weili is minus 210.
Hammer Rose.
I think Rose is my play right there.
I did too.
I think right now the only favorite I'm taking is Shevchenko, but at minus 420 odds, I think I'm going to keep my money out of that one. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's dangerous. But like my thoughts are, obviously I think it's gonna be a stand-up game. I think it's like a lot of people. But then again, you gotta look. All right, Whaley has already been through a war, and that takes a toll on a person. Her last fight was a war. Does she
Yeah.
really want to get into that again with somebody that wants to throw down like that? You throw bombs. I mean, although these ladies are tiny, 115 pounds, they throw hard.
They
No
hit
doubt
hard,
about it.
yeah.
But like they're not like one shotting, like one punch knockout power by any means,
Yeah.
Um, But like, if I had to say like what I would do if I was Whaley and what I think that would work is she's a lot thicker, in my opinion. She's a lot more muscularly built.
Yeah.
Her legs, especially.
Yeah.
Um, I, I'd say maybe take her down, get her up against the fence. I have a feeling that Whaley could really control the fight in that way in a close, maybe get into ground and pound situation if she doesn't want to stand up with Thug Rose. But, obviously I'm impartial. I want to see them stand, just go toe to toe. But,
See, I think that's going to be the thing about Rose. I mean, I'm not her coach, and I've never spent a day training MMA, so what do I know anyway? But I think really, if you have to look at where she's her strongest, and like you said, I think Wei Li is going to have a strength advantage. So I don't think that getting in the clinch and having to do all of that exertion of energy to be put in a position where you're basically pinned, I don't think that's going to be advantageous for her at all. So I think she's going to be circling. I think she's going to be doing a lot of moving, and like I think she's really known for. She's quick. I
yeah,
think the big thing is she's going to have to like work the jab, get inside, and then boom, 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 1, 2, 3, and get out. Circle, circle, 1, 2, 3, and get out. I think she's going to have to basically look like kind of like a Wonder Boy. I think she's going to kind of have to like come up out of nowhere where it's like she's here, Wei Li goes to throw a punch, Rose moves, and then she's here and counters.
I
But
agree.
I think it's very fair to say that if Zhang Wei Li can come out and get her hands on her, it could be a long night. And I really think this is going to come down to who comes out and not per se is more aggressive. I don't think I want to see anybody run in there with their head down and throw a bunch of hands like Jose Aldo did against McGregor and get dropped real quick. But
Yeah,
I mean, I think the woman who comes out with a bigger desire to more or less control the fight is going to be more successful.
I
The one
agree.
who looks a little bit more timid and tries to play defense and throw the counter shot and do all that, I think they might be in for a tough night.
Yeah, another point, just to kind of go off what you said about Whaley maybe controlling things on the ground. At 115 pounds, it's it's not that hard to get up. Like when you get in the heavier, bigger boys, that's when it gets hard to get up. Like you can tell the flyweights, the bantamweights, like it's a lot harder at a lower weight to keep someone on the ground unless you're
Yeah.
very technical. So that you can't really force your weight against it because 115 pounds. It's not heavy at all. But
That's
I
absolutely
guess
true. That's absolutely true.
I will find out what the strategies are on Saturday. And
Yeah,
now,
I was about to say we're gonna have to see how that one plays out. But I think you and I can both agree that that is the fight that we're most looking forward to. I
100%.
definitely think there's a lot of variables and a lot of things that could go different ways in that fight that could make it, one of the fights that we were talking about in December as like a fight of the year candidate.
Absolutely agree. And now for the main event.
It's time.
Let's go. Jorge Masvidal versus Usman. To
Kamara the champ. See, I'm gonna contradict myself here, and we're gonna probably have to run in circles for a little second on this one. But I'm gonna soft toss you and see how you feel about this theory. Because I was listening to Uncle Chael P. Sonnen the other day,
Bad
and
Guys Inc.
I just mean Mr. Bad Guy was basically trying to take his spin on the fight as you can't do the same thing over and over again
And
and
expect different
expect
results.
different results.
Yeah,
And that's basically what he was saying was that we just saw this fight. Usman fought once since this, and Masvidal has fought 0 times. So what is there to lead me to believe that there's going to be a different result at the end of it? What are your thoughts on that?
well, from what initially off the cuff, what I think is like, well, Masvidal didn't have a training camp. He came into the fight on 6 days' notice. Blah blah blah. After Gilbert Burns dropped out, he didn't train. He didn't have a game plan. Now, what I saw and heard from media, I forgot, I think it was one of his teammates, maybe Dustin Poirier. I'm not sure. Somebody said that before that fight, he was training like he was gonna fight Usman. Like the
Well,
guy
that's
had a full training camp. Like he didn't ever get out of shape. He was like, he always had the mindset like, okay, I want the title shot if Gilbert drops out for whatever reason.
that's
He
the
didn't
that's
make
the
the he didn't make the media feel that way. He controlled the narrative and it was like, oh, that's fine, 6 days notice, doesn't matter. Now he lost, obviously, kind of got dominated in a terrible fight, awful. Um, but now it's like, okay, 6 days I break your nose, 6 weeks I take your soul, or where the fuck he says. Which hey, I'm down for the fucking mean boy attitude, where the fuck you want to call it, But it's gonna be very hard for him to deal with Usman's strength and just size. I mean, I think Usman has a clear cut size advantage over pretty much everybody in the division not named Colby Covington. He's a
yeah.
lot bigger. Like, of course, they all weigh in at 170, but he blows the fuck up, dog.
No, I want to touch on what you said about Masvidal's training camp because I think that's the big thing that the media has picked up, and that's kind of the story and the way that they want to frame it is that, oh, he had 6 days the first time, and now he had like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever he had. But like you said, the rumor around Masvidal is A, he was training for Usman anyway because that's the fight he wanted, but B, he's a guy that doesn't take a lot of vacation time and a lot of time to rest his body. He pretty much stays in fight shape year round. He trains all the time.
Yeah.
But I think one of the big things that I heard about their last fight that I think will be much more interesting is that Masvidal, while he was training, wasn't what's the word I'm looking for? Wasn't paying attention as staunchly to his weight. He wasn't trying to make weight because he didn't have a fight. So when he took that fight, he was like 16 or 17 pounds overweight and dropped all of it in his hotel room in like 2 days.
Yeah.
So I don't think his body was in the best shape as it's ever been, especially because right now, like 3 or 4 days ago, we were talking about him only being 10 pounds overweight and being able to make weight and then maybe not match Usman in a size advantage, but at least be able to swell up a little bit before the fight and maybe fight at a little bit heavier weight than he did the first time.
Well, I mean, there's two trains of thoughts here. You can say that not Usman, Masvidal has been a professional for a very long time. He's been doing this.
This is his 50th professional fight when he walks against Usman. Will be 50.
Exactly. Hey, like people like casuals think like, oh, Masvidal, like he didn't come around until like he knocked out Ben Askren and they burst on scene. No. He's been around for a long time. But because of that, he knows how to cut weight. He's been doing this. I mean, I don't know the numbers of how many times he's missed weight, but I don't think it's been much.
I don't either.
The flip side of that coin is, all right, if you have a training program and a regiment you do every fight camp to get down to weight, and you come in on 6 days notice and you throw that out of the window, obviously, because usually you probably take like a week, 2 weeks to start cutting the weight, getting it under control. 6 days, you're cutting that in half. You're really putting a strain on your body physically. You're putting muscles, you're dehydrating them. It can take a huge toll on your body. Now, that could play into him having more strength because he cut weight properly for this fight, I'm assuming. But we'll see. But let's talk about Usman now. We've been focusing on Masvidal, obviously, but let's talk about the champion. What are your thoughts on the champion?
Well, I mean, I think one of the big things that we can look at with the champ is like we talked about pre-show. He's in Colorado now. He's training with Trevor Whitman. So not only is Kamaru Usman probably the best active wrestler in the UFC now that Khabib's retired, he's also working with one of the most elite striking coaches in the entire promotion in the entire world, to be completely honest with you. So I think Usman's boxing is going to look a lot better. I don't think he's going. And to be completely honest, we talked about animosity before. These two don't like each other. That's very clear. They can't stand each other. So I don't think Usman's going to go in with the same tactic of, I didn't get a chance to study Masvidal. I didn't get a chance to, look at his tape. So I'm just going to do what I do good and control him with my weight. I think he's going to go in there and try to hurt him. I think Usman's going to go in there and try to box. I think Masvidal is also a very good boxer, obviously. So I think we're going to see, the first couple of rounds, they're going to try to kill each other. The first probably 2 rounds, I think we see them exert a lot of energy. We see high output, high efficiency on one side where one's landing a bunch. I think they're going to trade. And then I think when we get to the 3rd round, I think it's going to turn into like let's see who's got more tricks up their sleeve. I think Usman might have to throw in the wrestling. I think Masvidal might have to show us something we've never seen before, which, like you said, we've seen him fight 50 times, but I don't think he's ever been in a fight as big as this. Because if you really look at the logistics of it, Usman has the belt, and that's what Masvidal wants, which is very clear. Masvidal, on the other hand, has the draw. He has the fame. He has the it factor that Usman doesn't have. He's the champ, and he's not even the most famous guy in his own division.
Yeah.
So I think there's that on the line, and I think if you really look at it, if Masvidal doesn't beat Usman here, I don't see any other way for him to ever end up with a UFC championship belt.
I mean, he might end up with another bullshit belt if Conor bumps up for Red Panty Night.
I mean, that's a belt. I'll give him that, and I'm not discrediting the BMF belt because I think it's cool. I think it's bullshit that the BMF belt's not on the line for this fight. But, I think that extra motivating factor that Masvidal really kind of sees this as, it's my last chance. I think that's going to play into it.
I agree. But where I want to go, like in regards to the champion is, so going back, 3 fights? So back to the Colby Covington fight. Colby Covington, he's been forgotten. He's an odd man out for whatever reason, which is bullshit in my opinion.
Because he won't take a fight. He won't fight anybody, but.
Yeah, he wants to fight Usman, obviously, and Dana White just came out today and said that he's next in line. But,
he's next in line.
Which he deserves. Look.
Agreed.
And, I think that progressively, Usman, his boxing skills have just got progressively, from good to great to, the last time we saw Usman, that was elite. It wasn't, Sean O'Malley, Izzy striking elite. That was, technically stand in the pocket and throw fucking pistons for fucking jabs. And, dude, that shit was nasty. Just from a stand in front of you, he's not the most creative, but when he fucking hits like a goddamn Mack truck. And, I think the maturation from Colby Covington to Burns in February, you saw that. It was is unstoppable. I mean, he broke fucking Kobe's jaw and, obviously knocked out Burns. And he showed his chin, how tough his chin is in that fight because he got fucking rocked.
Gilbert Burns rocked it. You're absolutely right.
And, he's, I'd say, he's probably one current champions right now, all around one of the most complete technical fighters, But going off of that, the first Usman fight versus Masvidal, I mean, I don't know if he was scared. He wasn't as confident. I won't say he was scared, but I don't think he was showing the willingness to stand in the pocket with Jorge and throw with him. But with all this animosity, like you were saying, I think he's this dude says he's gonna break my face. Fuck this guy. I'm gonna fucking show him what I'm all about. I'm the baddest motherfucker in the welterweight division, I think that he's gonna come out and he's gonna try to prove his point. And I think it's gonna be a great product to watch. So
no, I think touching on that, you look at a guy like Khabib, and not to compare Usman and Khabib because they're completely different fighters, but they're both beyond adequate, two of the best wrestlers in the world, especially in the promotion. But like I think you look at Khabib v. Connor and Khabib v. Gaethje. Everybody spent those whole media times talking about, oh, well, Khabib's just a wrestler. Khabib just this. Khabib's one-dimensional. And then you saw him come out and his boxing against he dropped Connor with a punch. Like, he came out and boxed Gaethje, like who's one of the hardest hitters in the entire UFC. So I wouldn't be surprised.
He didn't really. I mean, he threw a couple strikes, but that was by no means his game plan.
No, it wasn't his game plan, but
it was to get in close to take them down. I mean, obviously not Connor because he dropped him, but anywho.
I just think, we're kind of touching on, I think animosity definitely plays a factor into, like, I don't want to get you on the ground and tap you out. I don't want to TKO you where we end up getting stopped. I want to hurt you. Like, I want to cause physical pain to your body.
Smash.
And plus, I know, kind of circling back to something we touched on, and I think I mentioned that we'd get back to this. I think the idea of the rematch here is something that's very interesting, because I'll never call somebody with the skill like Kamaru Usman cocky. I don't think that's the word to use at all. But I think Kamaru Usman right now has a very high level of swag where he believes he's levels above everybody else and he kind of can't be touched. And I'm not saying he can be touched. I'm not saying he can be knocked out. But you saw that with guys like Anderson Silva, like, who was so good, and then Chris Weidman comes along. I think I think it'll be a pivotal moment in Israel Adesanya's career that he just lost. Because I don't think he ruined his confidence, but I think it kind of brought him back to earth in terms of, like, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to put out some of my best fights. I'm going to do this. So I guess this is maybe just something from a fan's perspective, maybe just something I wanted to see. Cruz and Faber needed each other to be the best that they could be. GSP and Matt Hughes needed each other to be the best that they could be. Tito and Chuck needed each other to be the best that they could be. I would love to see Masvidal win this fight so we could turn around and have a trilogy and say, we saw the best version of Kamaru Usman and the best version of Jorge Masvidal in the primes of their career, duke it out 3 times to officially figure out who is the king of the welterweights at that time.
I agree with you, and I love that idea. I really do.
And then at that point, if you really want to look at the rest of the division, you have Wonder Boy and Burns. I love Wonder Boy, but I don't think he's going to beat Burns. And then you have Leon and Nate Diaz. Love Nate Diaz, the character, but I think Leon's going to whoop him. So I think between Leon, Gilbert Burns, and Colby Covington, you have plenty of matches you can make there in the meantime within the rest of the division to set up a number 1 contender to fight the champ who would hypothetically come out of Usman Masvidal 3 if it got to that point.
I mean, that's a great idea, and that's obviously a perfectly possible timeline for things to happen. But I don't think Usman's losing, and I think Colby Covington's coming for that belt. And if he wins, that's a mad trilogy. Those guys got fucking animosity. Any way you fucking look at it, like, the welterweight division is just like the only person that doesn't have any kind of like media hype or like animosity is fucking Wonder Boy. Motherfucker's just so nice.
Well, I just mean, like, this would be one of the divisions we talk about as one of the best in the entire UFC if we could just get these guys to fight. If they would just sign bouts. Like, Colby versus Gilbert Burns would have been awesome. And I understand the idea in Colby's mind that, you go fight a guy like Gilbert Burns and you lose, then you don't get to set up your rematch with Usman and you're not in as good of a position. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, if you go fight Gilbert Burns and lose, are you really the top contender and do you deserve to go fight?
Exactly.
Plus,
but this is all going to settle out. The cream is going to rise to the top, so to speak.
Yep.
Find out. We'll see where the shit goes.
Plus, I know you said Smash earlier. Hamzat is going to be back, baby, this summer. We're going to see him soon, I feel like.
God.
I think that's a guy that could end up running the table, especially as like, I don't think he's gonna have a title fight this year, obviously. He probably won't get one next year. He's probably gonna need to build some more fights up, but like as Usman gets older, Masvidal kind of fades out. Colby's a younger guy, Gilbert's a younger guy. Wonder Boy will fade out. Leon will still be up there, but like who's gonna beat Hamzat? Who's gonna beat Chimaev?
Guess we're gonna find out, huh?
I guess we're gonna have to find out.
All right, bud. It was good talking to you.
You too, man. I just gotta point this out. I went 4-1 betting on the Francis card. I went 3-2 betting on the Vittori Holland card. I didn't touch last week. I didn't touch the Whitaker card. But right now I'm sitting at 7-3, and right now I'm calling Anthony Smith, Uriah Hall, Shevchenko, Thug Rose, and Gamebred with a crazy upset in the main card. So we're going to post up on YouTube. Give us a subscribe, give us a follow, and we'll see how I do next week. We'll see how we do next week.
We're out.